Hello friends, I am Dr. Suchita Vishwakarma, Assistant Professor, Department of Management, School of Management Sciences, Lucknow. Welcome you all to the series of lectures on supply chain and logistics management. Our topic of discussion today is Scor model. In the previous two lectures, we had discussed about the various dimensions of performance measurement, and we had also discussed about the tools of performance measurement in supply chain. We had also understood that why performance measurement is so very important in supply chain, and we had discussed that since supply chain is a very complex process which includes lot of organizations, people and processes, and so determining the efficiency and smooth running of all the activities in order to increase the profit of all the organizations who are involved in the supply chain, performance measurement is very much required. We had also discussed about the various methods or tools of performance measurement, which included ABC cost analysis, the ASLOG audit, balance scorecard, and many more. And that time also I had said that this particular model, that is a Scor model, we will be discussing separately. So, let us understand today why Scor model is so very significant and so widely used these days. Most of the organizations now are dependent on Scor model, and this is the most widely acceptable model for checking the performance measurement, for doing the performance measurement in any supply chain organization. So, let us get started with it. So, let us have a quick introduction of what Scor model is. Scor basically stands for Supply Chain Operations Reference Model, and it is, as I am saying, it is a process reference model. So, what do we mean by process reference model? Basically, it is the aim of this model is to check the processes, the day-to-day processes, the various activities that are conducted under supply chain. And this is one of the very unique model in which facilitates the comparison of various organization or comparison of the supply chain activity or similar activity which is conducted in various organizations. That means, there is no limitation of restricting or comparing or benchmarking the processes that an organization is adopting with comparison of the similar or similar industry with the other company of the similar industry. That means, for example, if any company which is into automobile industry wants to compare and wants to understand that how they can improve their processes of supply chain, they can compare themselves with any other industry, let us say steel industry, let us say commutation industry or any other industry. They need not do it with any other automobile company only. So, this gives a Scor model a very significant importance also. So, since Scor model was developed in 1996 by the management consultancy firm PRTM, which is now part of PricewaterhouseCoopers and endorsed by Supply Chain Council. Supply Chain Council is an autonomous organization, autonomous non-for-profit organization, which takes care of the training, the performance measurement of the activities and various other quality measurement aspects of the various supply chain activities across the world. In 2017, APEX, the Association for Operations Management, published the 12th and the current version of Scor model, which we are going to discuss today. Scor model is a standardized structure, and this enables a cross company analysis for all information, financing and product flow within the value chain. As I said that this particular model does not restrict itself within any particular industry or any other periphery. This provides a platform for companies to expand themselves in terms and compare themselves in terms of information, financial and product flow processes across the world and across the companies across the world. Scor model enables companies to address, improve and communicate the supply chain management practices within and between all supply chain existing within and outside the industry. Based on the data analysis, companies can plan long term and short term productivity, increase the efficiency and effectiveness of their supply chain management and coordinate and compare the processes between suppliers, manufacturers and customers. So, that means this Scor model basically gives a very wider horizon to the companies to compare all its activity with any other organization or individual. Now, before we talk in depth about Scor model, we should also understand that what Scor model covers. So, as I said earlier, that Scor model is basically a process reference model. So, it takes in consideration all the processes included in the supply chain, and the key assumptions are that the training, quality and information technology as well as administration are always supported during all the processes of the supply chain activity. That means the intention of Scor model is not to check the training, quality, information technology, administration, because it assumes that these are implicit factor and are not expressed explicitly, and these four things are considered to be of a continuous support to the organization during all the activities. So, this goes beyond the purview of Scor. Now, let us understand Scor in detail. So, the Scor framework basically has 4 pillars. The first being the process modeling and re-engineering. This enables a model to describe supply chain that are very simple or complex using a common set of definitions. So, basically process modeling and re-engineering basically talks about the various processes that are adopted by companies for during the supply chain processes, and in this Scor framework all the process of supply chain are defined by some common set of standards and do come under common set of definitions, and this concept gives an ease to the to any of the company to compare themselves with any other company of any other industry as well. Then the second pillar is performance measurement, which contains more than 150 key indicators that measure the performance of supply chain. So, this obviously we are going to discuss in detail. Then the third pillar is best practices. Over 430 executable practices are derived from the experience of supply chain council members, and which are available for all the companies to refer to and improve their practices. And coming to the fourth pillar, which is skill and competencies. So, all the pillars will be discussed in detail in this particular lecture of ours today. Let us get started with the first pillar. The first pillar, as you can see, is the process modeling and re-engineering pillar, and under this pillar, as we had discussed, that this basically talks about breaking all the processes into multiple phases. So, under this pillar, all the phases, all the supply chain activities are broken down into 6 phases. These are plan, source, make, deliver, return and enable. So, under plan, the processes that are under plan, what are the things that are done, let us understand it in more detail. Planning is basically about the processes that combine demand and supply to develop a course of action which best meets the sourcing, production and delivery requirements. So, any organization before conducting the or before implementing the supply chain must understand and must plan about the various activities that they are going to perform within the each functional area, and the functional area could be scoring, production and delivery requirement, because unless until they plan it properly, they will not be understand that what are the different activities that they are going to do and what are the kind of resources or resources that are required for each particular activity. The second phase is of source. This includes the processes that are related to procurement of goods and services to meet planned or actual demand. Then comes the third phase, which is make. Make includes the processes that transforms product to finished state to meet the actual demand. The fourth stage is deliver. This includes the processes that provide finished goods and services for meeting up the actual demand, and typically includes order management, transport management, distribution management kind of services. Then the fifth phase is return. Return talks about all the processes which are associated with return or receiving returns of the product for any reason. It could be for repair, it could be for refill, it could be for exchange or any other. And the sixth stage is enable. This includes the processes which are being associated with the management for implementing all the activities smoothly in the supply chain. These processes include management of business, rules, regulations, contract, facilities, supply chain management, management regulating and risk management. So, these are the various phases of first pillar, and obviously okay, let us have a look of the different phases. As you can see, this is a typical model of supply chain where this is your company, sorry, where this is the company. The company has its suppliers and supplier too have their suppliers. That means, for example, if I say that if my company is into, let us say, is into hotel industry. So, I would be requiring certain kind of materials from my suppliers, or let me take an example of a restaurant industry, and I have a restaurant and I would be requiring various kind of suppliers. So, let us take an example that I am not I am outsourcing my bakery kind of bakery units, and my supplier is providing me with all the bakery items. Now, obviously, this supplier would also require to have suppliers to provide them various kind of raw materials for the bakery. Now, coming to the forward channel, forward line of the supply chain, I do have my customers. They could be the retailers also. I may be offering the products also to some other smaller restaurant, or to some other maybe hotel or something, and then my the end term customer. So, over here if you see that this complete supply chain has been broken into different phases, as you can see from the spotted lines. So, for the supplier, I mean for this company, let us say A, and let us assume this company to be B, C and D. Now, for this for the transaction or interaction that is happening between company A and B, A is the seller while B is the buyer. Similarly, in between the transactions of company B and C, B is the seller and C is the buyer. So, over here you can see that all this phase are having the combination of these 5 phases that we had discussed earlier in the pillar 1, that is return, score, make, deliver and obviously return, and planning is obviously an intricate part of all the activities. So, any company, for example, this particular company B, if has to do certain things, they will have to plan, then they will have to source it from their supplier A, they will have to make, they will have to deliver it to the company C, and if in case company C returns anything, then it will come back to company B, and company B do also has a chance to return certain things if not required to company A. So, this means this particular combination of 5 phase is happening at each stage. It is happening with C also, D also and everywhere. So, every organization is basically required to break down each phase into these each supply chain activity into these phases, and then try and understand that what are the different activities or different processes which comes under all these phases. Now, coming to the levels of SCOR model. Under pillar 1 itself, the SCOR model says that the levels that the SCOR model is divided into 3 levels which are taken into consideration of the SCOR model. However, there is an existence of a 4th level 2 which does not come under the purview of SCOR model. So, let us understand all of them one by one. Level 1 basically talks about defining the scope, including geographies, segment and context. That means, under level 1, the top management will be taking in consideration that what is the scope of conducting the activities, what are the geographical areas that the organization needs to cover, what is the segment and the context in which they are working, and at this level the focus is on performing the 6 main process configurations, that is plan, source, make, deliver and return. That means, the top management will take a decision that what are the geographical areas, what is the product, what is the kind of offering that they are doing, and how for that particular geographical area or product or service, how they are going to plan, source, make, deliver and return and enable the activities. Under level 2, the supply chain is divided into various configurations, and the 3 configurations that are available as per the Scor model are M1, M2 and M3. So, M1 basically talks about making build to order scenario, M2 talks about make build to M1 talks about make build to stock scenario, M2 talks about make build to order scenario, and M3 stands for make engineer to order. Now, over here we need to understand that what does it actually mean. So, basically there are companies who are adopting push and pull strategy, which we had discussed earlier itself. So, push is a concept where the companies are preparing the product in anticipation of the demand or the demand forecasted by them, and they are preparing the products and keeping them in the warehouse or stocking them somewhere, and then making it available whenever the demand comes. So, they are not actually waiting for the demand and then they are producing, they are producing before the actual demand arises. For example, let us take the example of seasonal fruit juices. So, mangoes are available during certain season only. So, a company who is basically into mango fruit juice, preparation of mango fruit juice, may prepare it in advance and keep it in bottle and ready for the consumption in the later seasons. Then in M2 make build to order, in this kind of configuration, the company can actually decide that they will rather delay the production till the time the order has actually come. So, they will basically start manufacturing or start producing the good only and once they have received the order. That means, they will wait till the time the order has actually come to them. And third phase is the third configuration is make engineer to order. In this, once the customer orders, then the company makes a prototype of that product, then it shows the prototype to the customer. If they passes it, then they first the designing is done as per the order, and then the final production is done. So, these are the three kind of configurations which are available to any organization, and so the activities also of the organization will depend upon all 3 configurations, and so the company is required to understand that under which particular configuration they are going to operate. Now, talking about the level 3. Level 3 basically talks about the process element details, identifying key business activities within the chain. It also represents the best practices detailed process that belongs to each of the level 2. Level 3 defines a company's ability to compete successfully in its chosen market and consists of process element definitions, process element information input, process performance matrix, best practices, then system capabilities required to support best practices, and system tools. So, over here we need to understand that once the company has decided on the configuration, then the activities are further broken down into smaller areas, so as to properly understand that what are the different sub activities under each activity, so that the closer analysis or closer check on the performance can be done. However, there is one more level which, as I discussed earlier, does not comes under the purview of Scor model, but still in below level 3, the companies basically decompose all these elements also and try to find out that that through which particular sub activity they can gain competitive advantage. So, let us have a quick look of the different levels as which we were discussing. This is the level 1, which basically talks about the 5 phases, that is plan, score, make, deliver and return, and takes in consideration the context, geography, segment and of the product. Then level 2 talks about the build to stock, build to order and engineer to order kind of things, and which kind of configuration has to be chosen for which kind of geographical segment or offering. And then level 3 talks about identifying the business activities. So, once this has been done, the company tries to break it down to different kind of activities, and which are again named. For example, over here you can see M201. So, if the company has chosen the M2, that is make build to order, then the configuration of at this level will be M2.0.1 0.01, M2.02 and hence thereby. Now, talking about the second pillar, that is performance measurement. This performance measurement pillar basically is used as a unified system for more than 150 key performance indicator which have a hierarchical structure. The KPI, that means the key performance indicators, are used for internal evaluation of performance and external analysis of the supply chain and are assigned to each details of the Scor model. Supply chain can be split between the internal and the external facing units. This is something that I will show you just now. And then the performance attributes are characteristics of supply chain that permits it to be analyzed and evaluated against each other and competing strategies. So, let us have a look. This is what we were talking about. These are the different hierarchies under the pillar 2. These hierarchies over here are not analogous to the different levels that we had discussed in pillar 1. So, let us not get confused with them. These are the hierarchies of level 2 itself, and they have different set of activities which are mentioned, and according to these hierarchies, the sub activities are identified, and accordingly the performance indicators are also identified. Over here I have shown a small matrix which basically shows the different performance indicators and the matrix that comes under the level 1. So, over here as you can see that the performance attributes are divided into two phases, the customer facing view and the internal view. Customer facing view basically talks about all those performance or those indicators in or rather all those processes in which the company is going to interact with the customer, and so what kind of responses or what kind of feedback should come under or what are the matrix that can help the organization understand that whether the customer is preferring the company or liking the performance of the company or not. So, it is divided into various segments. For example, the reliability, responsiveness and flexibility, whether the organization is providing a reliable service and is responsive to the frequent changes or the changes of the customers according to the customer's need or so, and whether they are able to flexibly adopt to the changes. And then talking about the internal facing, that means all those metrics which are related to the cost and the assets utilized by the organization itself. So, there are various indicators, and these indicators accordingly help the company to understand that how their performances can be measured. Then talking about the pillar 3, this talks about the best practices. Over 500 executable practices derived from have been derived from the supply chain council or members of the supply chain councils, which can be referred by any organization who is adopting Scor as a performance measurement tool. And over here you can see that these best practices are again divided into different categories: the current, structured, proven, repeatable and the method. So, current basically talks about those best practices which must be emerging and must not be very obsolete. Structured are, that means those practices which are very clearly stated, the scopes and the processes are clearly stated. Proven best practices mean that those which have been adopted by many organizations and the outcome has been kind of proved and is very similar in most of the organizations. Repeatable is that the practices has been proven in the multiple environment, that means it in multiple industries. And method is when it is used in a broad sense to indicate the various activities like business process, organization strategy, business models as well as knowledge management. Now, talking about the fourth pillar, that is skill and capability. Based on evaluation of the different activities and sub activities of the organization, the the organization is then required to build up its fourth pillar, that is the skill and capability of its employee. So, over here we need to understand that what do we mean by skill, experience, aptitude, competency and training. So, skill is the capacity to deliver different results with minimal input and time and energy. So, basically the organization is required to provide lot of training also to develop the skill and behavior of people through instructions, through workshops and activities. Then obviously experience is also the knowledge and ability of that that an individual has acquired by observing or participating into various activities. So, over here also the company needs to improve the performance of the individual or the team by providing them various kinds of exposure and experiences. Then aptitude is the natural acquired, learned or developed ability. So, this also can be worked on and improved for the individual employees as well. And then the competency level describes the level and state of qualification and to perform the roles and tasks. So, the organization must take care that they are properly building up the skills and capabilities of the employees in order to improve their performances at each level. Over here we also need to understand that what is the need of Scor. So, as we said, we had discussed that Scor is basically one tool which helps the company to analyze its performance vis-a-vis comparing themselves with the best practices, best practices and the performance and the processes adopted by other organizations, and these other organizations can be of the same industry as well as the other industry as well. So, basically the need is to describe the supply chain under consideration, creating understanding for process which are relevant to supply chain configuration, improving and understanding the supply chain configuration, that how we are doing and what is the scope of improving, evaluating and comparing the supply chain, that means how we can make it much better, designing and integrating supply chain with the part of logistics chain, that means how the supply chain is an integrated process and how it can be improved further on. Describing the requirement criteria, what are the different kind of requirements that organization needs to have in order to improve the working, and enabling the exchange of experiences of other supply chain participants. Now, in importance is also on the same line, that if the organization is able to improve to identify and improve their working, then obviously they will be able to improve their efficiency, improve their productivity, and obviously will be able to perform the desired the task in the by utilizing the best of the resources and in the least of the time as well. So, where can Scor be implemented? Scor can basically be implemented in improving planning process, improving distribution process, improving curriculums, refining research projects, and in different government projects as well. Over here I have shown you the potential improvements which are expected through Scor. So, these are the different functions, business functions, and the improvement that are expected through Scor. So, in inventory there is a scope of improvement of 70%, distribution cost can also be minimized by 35%, space of manufacturing can also be reduced by 50%, NPD cycle can also be improved by 60%, documentation and paperwork can be reduced by 80%. So, over here this particular snapshot actually shows you that how companies after by incorporating this kind of practices, how by referencing the other organizations they are able to improve their day to day working in a regular manner. So, for detailed understanding you may go to following references. Thank you.